right. Well, I hope you all had a nice weekend. Good. So, a few things that we have for this week. So today we will, we'll go over the fourth stats worksheet, and then the fifth one is just all review, and then tomorrow we have a stats quiz, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday it starts dealing with polynomials, which is just a fancy way of saying, hey, we have like x squared plus 3, which should be good. I think you guys will appreciate the polynomial unit. But with that known, let's talk about, what was it, page 9 and 10?
Yeah.
9, 10? Is that right? All right, so it was the box and whiskers. Is anyone opposed if I just start with problem number 1? Is everyone going to you're opposed to it?
No. What does opposed mean?
You don't want me to?
Oh. No, I want you to.
Okay. All right, so problem number 1. Let's see if we can hammer this out a little bit. And mine's not going to be perfect, but let's just pretend I can do it pretty well.
Beanie has a vagina.
That might not be appropriate language.
Go to the D.
What, do you think those are my words?
Someone wrote it on the paper.
All right.
Then serious.
Oh, shoot. You know what I just, oh my goodness. I just did problem number 2. I'll go back now. All right, problem number 1. Officially problem number 1.
Are we doing problems?
Yes.
Which one?
1 on page 9.
Let's do number 4.
You got it.
Can you do all of it?
I will. That's 70, that's 80, so this is kind of like this. I'm trying to make my box and whiskers as close as theirs. 90, 95. And that's like 100 out there. Okay, so that's problem number 1. So problem number 1 kind of has this box and whiskers that looks like this. You can color them in. Few pieces of information that are vital for answering all these questions. It's always pivotal if you're doing these kind of questions to honestly know this. You have 25% of your data right here. You have 25% of your data here. You have 25% of your data here. And then you have 25% of your data here. So if you add those all up, you get 100%. So 100% of your data should fall within there, within the box and whiskers. Outliers don't necessarily count with your data because there's a lot of times an outlier could be a mistake. It could be something that somebody misread. Every now and then it might actually be a piece of data, but there's other tests to do that. So what was the median? So letter A is what's the median? So what's the middle of our data?
80.
75.
Well, it looks like 80, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Is that right?
I got it right.
Yeah.
Is that very middle? So here, let's do this. This is where the median would take place up here. Is that okay? Okay, what was the highest score that somebody earned the overall range of data? I'd say, well, it's way out here, so I'd say that's got to be 100. That's got to be your highest score. And see, what is the overall range for the data? So,
Would it be 10 or 15?
the overall range, I would say I'm going to take 100, and then because I had one score down here at 10, I would subtract that and know that our scores span 90 points. Okay, even though that might be an outlier, we don't know.
Wait. What's the lowest?
10, because there was a value down at 10.
Okay.
And then it looks like my highest value is here at 100. So 100 minus 10. So I have like a span of 90.
Okay.
Okay. And then it says, what is the IQR? Okay, so letter D, IQR. That's the interquartile range. So that's, this edge right here is called Q3. This edge right here is called Q1. So the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So Q3 on our data looks like it's 95. And Q1, I would say, is 55. Is that okay? Am I looking at everything?
Is IQR always Q3 minus Q1?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's always the IQR covers half your data in between is what you're looking for. And so if I do that math, it looks like my IQR is 40. And then they want to know is the score of 10 an outlier? Okay, so this is actually the answer to letter E. And then we have to use letter E's answer to answer letter D. I'm sorry, they went out of order. So being that you're at the lower, so 10 is at the lower. So if we want to find the IQR with that, what did we do the other day in order to justify that? I don't remember our notes. Yeah. It doesn't reach out to it, but there was something. It was like 1.5 times something minus something else. Remember? See that? Let's actually go back to the notes that we had from the other day, so we can double check it. Let's see. Semester 2 notes and videos. And then let's go down. So if we look at Friday's notes, that should be Friday's notes right there. But there was something about IQR, and I can't remember. So I'm just going to refer back to my resources that we have. Let's see. Okay. I think it was right here. I think it's here. So the bottom outlier, I'm going to put this over here on the board. That's the equation right there. We have Q1 minus 1.5 times whatever the IQR is. So that's to the left. And to the right, we're going to go Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. And that's to the right to see if we have outliers. Okay, so see what I did? I just went to our notes, figured that out. So let's ask this. Is this 10 to the left of all my data, or is it to the right of all my data? To the left. Everyone okay with that? So I'm going to do Q1 minus 1.5, whatever the IQR is. So what's the IQR? What did I just find it to be? 40. And then I have Q1. So Q1 up there is, what did we say Q1 was? Looks like 55. So I have 55 minus 1.5. IQR is 40. So 1.5 times 40 is how much? It's 60.
60.
Good. Thanks for participating. All right, 55 minus 60 is negative 5. Okay? So, question is 10 an outlier with our information? Look at our grid. Look at our picture up here. What's my 10's my lowest value. Where does negative 5 land in this world? Does it land to the left of 10 or to the right of 10?
To the left.
To the left. So is 10 an outlier? No, I need something less than negative 5. I need like negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, something like that. So 10 is not an outlier with our data. Okay? Even though it's kind of far outside and it's kind of far out of our whiskers, it's not something that's such a far out outlier that we have to write it off. 25% of the students scored higher than what score? So 25% of our students scored higher. So this is lower, this is in the middle, this is in the middle, and this is higher. So 25% of our students scored higher than what? What?
95.
Yeah. So 25% of our students. So if we're talking about this, we're talking to the right, so we're going to look at 95 to this way. So that's what 25% of our people scored, was to the right. Okay? Let's look at number 2. I think I drew number 2 here. Make that number 2. I think that's number 2. 2, 25, 55, 140. Cool. So letter A says, what is the IQR? Well, let's label things I know. That first line's Q1. This is my median. This is Q3. The IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So what is Q3? What numeric value is Q3?
55.
55. What numeric value is Q1? 10. Subtract those so I get 45. 45 is my IQR, my interquartile range. My interquartile range means you're talking about 50% of your data, 50% of your information. All right, letter B says, how many American League hitters hit more than 25 RBIs? We're talking about baseball, okay? Okay, 25's here. 25 is my what? Median. So if it's my median, that means it's my middle. So half are below and half are above. Okay, so how many AL hitters hit more than 25 in 2012? Well, it says the following box plot shows the 2012 season of RBIs of 280 American League batters. The top 280 batters in terms of the number of plate appearances. Okay, so how many hit more than 25? So if there's 200 people in my data, what's the middle of my data? Well, divided by 2, so it's 140. So how many people hit more than 25 RBIs if half my data is above and half my data is below? All my data is 280. So half above is 140. So we had 140 batters that had more than 25 RBIs in this baseball season. Letter C talks about B.J. Upton of the Tampa Bay Rays hit 78 RBIs. 78 RBIs. So let's just say 78 somewhere in here. Okay. This is the 90th percentile value on this chart. 90th percentile. So this is called the 90th percentile. We'll just write it as 90%. So that means only 10% of the people hit more than him, and then 90% hit lower than him. Does that make sense how I just said that? So for letter C, 10% hit better than that, while 90% hit worse. So he's at the 90th percentile, okay? It's a pretty high-end place to be. Then it says, how many players hit between 56, oh, hang on, okay. Follow me on this adventure. See, from here to here, I have 25% of my people. In this region, I have 25%. In this region, I have 25%. And in this entire region here is also 25%. Okay, let's see if we can walk through this. How many players hit between 56, so right here, to here? So if 25% of my data is here, right? and this is at my 90th percentile. Okay, so look at it this way: 25, 50%, 75%. So what percent goes from 75 to 90? How many do I have to add to 75 to get to 90? 15. So 15% fell within that region. I mean, you just subtract them. That's all you're doing. What is the upper cutoff for an outlier? It says Michael Cabrera had an extraordinary year with 139 RBIs. So 139 RBIs is here. Is he an outlier? Well, no, because 140 was my top, and he hit less than 140, so it's not an outlier. And then would it be more likely to find a batter who hit 56 RBIs? So 56 RBIs or fewer than 9 RBIs. Okay, so 56 RBIs is like right here. 9 RBIs is right here. What do you think? How much of my data falls right here? 25. How much of my data falls here? So I have the same chance of finding somebody who had more than 56 or less than 9. Those are just the outliers. Okay, so again, box and whiskers is just a way of taking your data, taking it from least to greatest, and then finding each of the little regions. Okay, so let's put this into perspective that I think you can grab onto, so you don't have to take notes on this. But let's say I were to take this class, and I'm just going to make up fictitious grades. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 of you in this class. Is that okay for me to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody like, I don't get that? Okay, so let's say somebody got a 50% on a test, a 51% on the test, 51%, and then it jumps to a 70%, 73%, 75%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. So let's just say that's the grades for everybody in this class. I don't know who you are. I'm just saying I'm looking at your grades. I have no idea who goes with what. First off, are all these in order from least to greatest?
Yeah.
Okay, I tried to make it that way. All right, so if there's 15, what is the very middle number of 15? If I had 15 pieces of information, what's the very middle number? So I got 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7.
81%.
So that's my 8th number. My 8th number is 81%. That's my middle of my data. Okay? So if I were to start making a box and whiskers, here's my 81%. It's the middle of my information. Does that make sense? Now let's find the middle of this lower part. I have 7 numbers. What value is the lower part? The lower Q1. What's the middle?
7.
Yeah, that's the middle. So that's going to be Q1. So that's your median here. That's Q1. Now let's find the middle of my top.
84.5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7.
that's
So
good.
it's going to be the 4th number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's Q3. And then my bottom piece of information is the person who scored the 50%. And my top piece of information is the person who scored a 97%. That's my box and whiskers. How does this work? If I go this right here, I have 25% of my scores that fall. And then from here to here, I have 25% of my scores that fall, or 1/4 of my data. 25% of my data, and then 25% of my data. That's how I made a box and whiskers. That's all it is. So what percent of my class got higher than an 85%? 25%. What percent of my class got below an 81%? Half my class, 50%. That's how it works. Okay? So that's just kind of a visual of how a box and whiskers is created. And it's honestly that easy. What is my IQR? Well, I'm going to go 85 minus 70, so I get 15. Okay? I go with my Q3, and I go with my Q1, my middle of my top versus my middle of my bottom. Subtract them. All right, can I go to number 3? Does that kind of clear up a little bit what we're doing? I mean, did you see how quickly I just made a box and whiskers off of 15 pieces of data? Were those real test scores? No, I just made them up. I was just trying to get you to realize, oh, wow, we have 15 people in here. That could happen. Okay? I know this is the incorrect data because I think you all get this score in here. Okay? All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3 says, a study of memory recalls times a series of stimulus words are shown to a subject on a computer screen. For each word, the subject is instructed to recall either pleasant or unpleasant memory associated with that word. A box plot below summarizes the recall times in seconds for 20 pleasant and 20 unpleasant memories. So you have 2 box and whisker plots. You have one that kind of looks like this. So that's the unpleasant. And then you have the pleasant. So that's basically what we have as far as our 2 pictures. So we're comparing 2 box and whiskers. Okay? So this is my median here. This is my median here. So my median down here is a 3. My median up here is like a 3.9, 3.8. Do you feel comfortable with how I just got those numbers? Anyone stuck on how I got those numbers? All right, and then I have, this is about a Q1, which is about 2 point, nope, I take it back, 1 point something. It's about 1.9. And then this one is is my Q1 on this data, and that's about a 2.1. And I'm just guesstimating, I'm not exact, I'm just trying to do the best I can with it. And then this is my Q3, which looks like my graph, that's about a 3.6. Okay, and this is my Q3 on this data, which is about a 6.4 maybe. Is that okay? And then my value here, this is about 0.5 of a second. This one is about, it's a little bit in, so it's like a 0.6. This is about 11. And this one is a 5.9 with the value at 6.1, which is a just kind of seems to be an outlier, but it might not generally be one. So what are the median times for both the unpleasant and the pleasant memory groups? So for letter A, what is my median for my unpleasant? It's up there. 3.8. And my pleasant group, what's my median? 3. Okay, so that's just, as far as the unpleasant images, half the people took less than 3.8 seconds to recognize it as being unpleasant. The other half of that group took 3.8 seconds to more than 3.8 seconds to see it unpleasant. As far as pleasant, 3 seconds was the cutoff. Which group had a higher Q1?
Group 1.
Group 1, the unpleasant. So the 2.1 for the unpleasant, that was a higher Q1 value. That's exactly right. Which group had the lowest value?
Pleasant.
The pleasant
Yes.
had the lowest value, and the lowest value I said was about 0.5 because it's further to the left. What is the range for both groups? Well, the range for both groups, I had about 11 minus 0.6, so that comes out to 10.4 for the unpleasant group. And then I had 6.1 minus 0.5, so that comes out to 5.6 for the pleasant group. So you just take the highest value and the lowest value and subtract them. What would you say are some of the biggest differences between the groups? It took people longer to recognize something to be as unpleasant. Okay? So with this study, it might show that if you see something that looks nice, you recognize it as being nice versus something that's not nice as, oh, that's messed up. Okay? That's all it really is. The box plot for the pleasant recalls an outlier justified mathematically that it is an outlier. So they want us to figure out, is this truly an outlier? So the outlier that we had used was, we have it over there. So we have Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. Okay, so Q3, so they're saying that's an outlier. So we're saying that's 3.6 is my Q3. My IQR is 3.6 minus 1.9. So that comes out to like 1.5. And then I'm going to multiply that by 1.5 because that's the standard. So that's 2.25. So 3.6 plus 2.25. That's going to be 5.85. So anything more than 5.85 justifies that we have an outlier. Is 6.1 an outlier if we have to have bigger than 5.85? So this is an outlier. Okay, and so it says, in the group instructed to recall unpleasant memory, approximately how many people took longer than 2.2 seconds? So unpleasant, 2.2. I guess they're calling this 2.2. So you had 75% of your data took longer than 2.2 seconds to estimate it. Okay? All right. Call that good you were here. I'm going to put points in for you because I've done pretty much all the problems. Let's take a look at the review page.
Can we turn this in?
I'm going to put points in for you right now.
Hey, let's get it. I finished it already.
Cool, I'll put it in for you. So does anybody need the packet still? Because I'm still trying to hand out plenty.
I'll take one. Like I have the package.
Okay.
But I'll take one just because.
Oh, see, you know what? You're making my day. Love you, man. All right, so I'm at the very back of the packet. If you have it, get it out, please. And let's go to problem number 1. Problem number 1 of the review. And this says a box contains 5 purple marbles, 3 green marbles, and 2 orange marbles. 2 consecutive draws are made from the box without replacement of the first draw. Find the probability of each event. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 1, 2, 3. And then I have 1, 2. So I have those marbles I'm putting into this bag we can't see. We're going to move it around. They're all the same size. They all have the same texture on the edges, so you can't be like, ooh, orange is rougher than purple. And we want to see, it says, without replacement. So how many marbles are up there? First off, how many marbles are in this bag? There's 10. There's 10 marbles. Agree? And of those marbles, we have 5 purple, 2 orange, and 3 green. What does it mean if I draw 2 consecutive draws from the box without replacement? What did I not do between the first draw and the second draw? I didn't put it back. So letter A says, hey, probability orange was first, and then green was second. Okay? So we're not replacing. So how many marbles are on my first draw? How many marbles do I have? 10. How many happen to be orange? 2. Are you okay with that? So I take that out, I put it aside. How many marbles are left in my bag? 9. Okay? And then we want to know the probability the second is green. How many green are in my bag? 3. And we're just going to multiply fractions. Now, there are things we could reduce. We could say that's 1/3. Yes. And we could say that that's 1/5. Agree? And now I'm going to go 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 3 is 15. So I have a 1 in 15 chance of drawing 2 marbles where I didn't put the first one back. I have a 1 in 15 chance of getting an orange, then a green. Okay? So again, we're not replacing. Next question says, hey, both are purple. So I got purple, purple. So first off, how many purple marbles are in this bag? 5. Then I have 9 marbles left because I didn't replace. And if I picked a purple, how many more purples are left in the bag? 4. Reduce where you can, just to make it easier. So let's see, that goes in there twice. That goes in there 5 times. Oh, that's a 5. That's a 5. Now I can multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 9 is 9. I have a 2 in 9 probability of drawing a purple and a purple. Huh. Is that hard to think about? And then letter C says this. What's the probability that the first is a purple and then the second is any color but? Okay, so how many purple are in my bag? Originally?
5.
Out of how many? 10. Okay, so I have 5 out of 10. That's my first draw. I don't put it back, so I know I only have 9 in the second. So if I pulled that purple out, how many marbles left are a different color than purple? 5. I have 2 orange and 3 green. So I have a 5 out of 10 and a 5 out of 9. I could reduce here, then multiply. So I'm going to get a 5 out of 18 chance of I pull a purple out first, don't put it back, and then I pull a marble that is not purple out. So 5 out of 18. A little bit less than a third chance. Okay? So that might be something that you might see tomorrow on the quiz. Is that all right? Number 2. Number 2. Mississippi. Let's face it, Mississippi that's a fun state to spell, right? So it says the letters from the word Mississippi are placed in a bowl. Which letter is the least likely to be picked? M. So I have only one of those, least likely to be picked out. Least likely to be picked. Does everyone agree with that? The reason is I'd have 4 I's, I have 4 S's, and I have 2 P's. I only have 1 M. Number 3 says, hey, it is estimated that 22% of households in America are headed by a single adult. Out of these single adult households, 21% are men. What percent of the households are headed by single men? Okay.
20%.
So let's look at this. We have 22% of households have a single adult in it. That means 78%. So this is single, could be male or female, and this is, more than one. Does that make sense?
So we're finding 22% of 20%.
We might be. I don't know. Let's see. So that's my first branch. So first thing I have to look, if I add those together, do I get 100%?
Yeah.
First branch is legitimately done. Okay? And then it says, out of these single households, 21% are men. And that would mean that of this little thing, we're talking about 79% are not men. Okay? So, really all I have to do here is go 0.22 times 0.21, 0.22 times 0.21, I don't know, use a calculator, 0.22 times 0.21, 4.62% of households. You have the individual that's male that runs it, 4.62. Is that okay? I didn't even have to fill out the rest of the tree diagram. I just had to realize I had to multiply 2 percents together. Questions on that? Everyone doing okay? And this is good review. You're going to keep this because we have the quiz tomorrow. Number 4 says a crafts person makes stuffed animals for sale. 85% of the animals she makes are bears, and the remaining 15% are rabbits. Okay. So we have this bears and rabbits thing. Suppose she sells 75% of her bears at a craft show, but only 50% of her rabbits sold at a craft show. What proportion of animals does she sell at the craft show? Okay, so you have bears, you have rabbits. Agree? And then we know that they told us in the beginning that 85% are bears and 15% are rabbits. If I add those up, do I get 100%? Yes, looks good. But I don't have to fill out really the rest of my information. I'm going to say sold and not sold, sold and not sold. Is that okay? Then it says, suppose she sells 75% of her bears. That means that 15% of her, or 25% of her bears weren't sold. And then of her rabbits, she sold 50% of her rabbits. And so 50% didn't sell. What proportion of her animals does she sell at the craft show? So I need to figure out what that number is and that number is as far as the percent goes. So in order to go there, I'm going to go 0.85 times 0.75. 0.85 times 0.75. So that gives me 63.75. And then I'm going to do this path. 0.15 times 0.50. 0.15.
It's like 7.5%.
I just made a mess. What did I say it was? 0.15 times what?
0.50.
0.5. So 7.5%. You nailed it, 7.5%. So what percent of animals were sold? Well, I'm going to add those two together. I'm going to go 63.75 plus 7.5. Bring down the 5, that's a 12. Put the decimal down, carry that up. That's 11, carry the 1. So 71.25% of our inventory sold. We seem to be okay. Let's skip down to number 6 on this, just so wait for sake of time. Number 6, we have this diagram that they give us. It says airline passengers must pass through security screenings, but some are subjected to additional searches as well. Some travelers who carry laptops wonder if it makes them more likely to be searched. So they added up. There's 420 people that they added all up, right? And of those people, they have it in this data. So searched. So yes and no. You have 30, 42. You have 145, 203. This would add up to 175 and 245. And then this is laptop and not. And so those numbers are right. So this is now 72 over here, 348 over here. And then we get that total of 420. Okay? Some travelers who carry laptops wondered if it makes them more susceptible to being searched. Okay? Does it appear being subjected to an additional search is independent carrying a laptop? Okay, so how many people had a laptop in this survey?
72.
How many people? 30. How many people had a laptop?
Oh, 30.
Oh, so had a laptop? Yes, no. Searched. So this is searched. This is searched this way. And then computer or not. So how many people had a laptop in our data? I think you said it first.
30.
No, you said it original.
72.
So you had 72 people with laptops. 30 out of 72, which would reduce to 15 over 36. Which then I could reduce that to, let's see, 3 goes in there, 5 out of 6. No, that's wrong. 3 out of 3 goes into there. So 3 goes in there, 5 out of 12 times. So less than half the time, somebody who has a laptop, who had it with them, got searched. Okay? So, my friends, we went over box and whiskers. I would say this, if you feel like 40% certain on this packet that you have here, and maybe go over that review, that quiz tomorrow probably should have about an 80% average on it. That's not too bad, huh? Please, if you have a calculator, bring your calculator. Please, please, please. As soon as it gets to 47, you can get out of here, but don't line up by the door before then. Please.